This week, we're going to look at a very simple idea. What are the positives of being the other? Let's get started. Welcome back. This is Being the Other. I'm Dr. Dwight Turner. And this episode's going to be a little bit different because we spent a lot of time over the past 6 months or so looking at the difficulties of difference, difficulties of being the other. And we've talked about narcissism, egoism, being the other abroad and so on. All the difficulties and challenges and so on which come up around difference and diversity and otherness. And we'll continue to do this in other podcasts. But I want to spend just one cast for now, we'll probably expand this as we go along, just one cast for now, exploring some of the positives. What are the positives in being the other? Where does the power lie in difference? Where does the power lie in my sense of otherness? Well, what I've done with this cast is come up with 3 examples, 3 very important examples of different people who in their own individual way have, in the expression of their art, their skill, their nature, have actually shown that being the other, being different, has a certain power, certain uniqueness that we as a culture, as a society, needs. We can't live without it. Let's talk about the first example. And the first of these is Sir Mo Farah, CBE, the multiple Olympic, world and European champion over 5 and 10,000 metres. He wasn't actually born here in the UK, which is where I'm recording from. He's actually originally from Somalia and only came to the UK when he was 8 years old, where inevitably he was an outsider. He would have been back in those days. This is the thing though. This is a man who works extremely hard at what he does. This is a man who spends most of his time, or used to spend most of his time in the US, training incessantly for the races that he was due to run. A man who actually stood outside of the norm when it came to that. This is the thing about the power of otherness. You're not necessarily bound by the same rules as everybody else. Doesn't mean that you exclude the rules. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, actually, you have the chance to create a world that's of your own in this. And that involves a lot of hard work and dedication in order to do so. Let's look at another one now. Now, what I love about this particular picture here by the artist Yayoi Kusama, I hope I pronounced that right, this is a very striking piece of work, and it's from an artist, a Japanese artist, who's been at the forefront of the avant-garde movement for many, many years. I can't even count how many, sadly. This is a woman whose life has been very much beset by difference, by being an outsider. There was a story on the BBC about how she spends a lot of her time living in an institution back in Japan, I think if that's correct, where she actually designs lots of her art installations from. Beautiful, beautiful work, very stunning, but also shows the power and the creativity that can emerge out of being other. And this last example perhaps takes us a stage further. This is the artist Prince, who passed away last year, sadly. One of my personal favourites, in that this is a man who really stood outside of the norm, created types and styles of music that other pop musicians and other musicians of the time just weren't interested in creating. They weren't interested in working how he did. He worked when he wanted to, often working late into the evening when his band was sleeping. He recorded numerous songs, the vast majority of which we'll probably never hear because they're sat in a vault somewhere. This is a man who stood outside of the norms, the conventions of pop music of that time, so much so that it's only later in his life that he's been accepted as one of the greats of his industry. A wonderful example of the power of the other. So as you can see from those very rich and very different examples, being the other, being different, is not always a negative. Edward Said talks about the position of the intellectual as the other, and they're having a unique perspective on the world around them in a way, and how necessary it is as a culture to have otherness. We talk about it as if we shouldn't have an other. We should stop othering in some way. And yeah, there are difficulties attached to that. And yet, just giving you those 3 examples there shows how important and how rich and how much things change when we actually bring in the other, when we acknowledge that they exist, that they actually have a unique role. Yes, different cultures, More indigenous cultures perhaps, where they had like a shaman as the other. The shaman would play a specific role for that culture. That was hugely important. They weren't part of the tribe, they weren't part of the group, and yet they were included in some way. They had a unique perspective that the group needed. This is no different. This is why it's important to acknowledge that there is a power, a skill, a will, an ability that comes with being different that we need to acknowledge within ourselves, myself included. Now I'm going to leave that there for this week. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to yourselves. Keep subscribing to Being the Other. See it down below there. Follow me on Twitter or on Facebook under Being the Other. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.